afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and begin our press conference for today. I'd like to first of all take this opportunity, you'll hear from Mayor Cantrell today, but I want to first of all take the opportunity to thank Mayor Cantrell for being here, Dr. Legno, our board president, Ashley, our medical advisor, Mr. Springate, and also Tiffany Delcourt, our chief operating officer, for our press conference today. Usually when you think of the month of September and Labor Day just has passed, our kids are really at that time usually just getting back settled into what we would say a normal school year. And we know this year has been far from just that. And so over the last several weeks, our school leaders have been hard at work planning for the return of in-person learning for our students, and I would say our little ones, which are in pre-K through 4th grade. And now we are just a few days away from our youngest learners being reunited with their teachers in school buildings. And that is especially a thanks to all of our citizens who have heard not only myself, Mayor Cantrell, continue to say mask up for our young people. Remind everyone to practice social distancing, wash your hands, wear a face mask, and stay home when you're sick. And our data over the last several weeks actually reflect your efforts. As a community, we continue to battle COVID-19. The health and safety of our students, teachers, and staff, I just want to remind everyone that that will remain a top priority. That is our top priority. We continue to monitor the health data trends. We've been consulting with our medical advisors, the New Orleans Health Department, and as of now, the indicators that we have been watching for the last several weeks have remained within the appropriate levels, and therefore there are no changes to our plans that are being made at this time. We are still on track for schools to reopen for our youngest learners in pre-K through 4th grade between September 14th and September 25th. This decision has been informed by our roadmap to reopening, which was developed to adapt the changing health data trends following the guidelines laid out in the roadmap. We made a pivot to remote learning for the first few weeks of schools when the indicators showed that return to school, that was something that was not possible. And so we started our school year again with virtual learning. Now we are once again following the guidance outlined in our roadmap, which prioritizes returning our youngest students to in-person learning as soon as it's safe to do so. To reiterate, health and safety are our top priority, which is why we have been and will continue taking a deliberate and measured approach to returning our students to in-person learning. This is why we are focusing on a small subset of our students. And we are again prioritizing with our little ones, who have the most to gain both academically and emotionally from in-person learning. We know there may be changes that necessitate a different approach to learning at any given moment in time, which is why we are continuing to take this one step at a time. As we said all along, including when we made our announcement back in August, there have been many factors that have impacted the community spread of COVID-19 numbers in our community as we have moved throughout this crisis. We're keeping a close watch on these, from the college students returning to campus to the holiday weekend celebrations. Nola Public School is ready to pivot quickly to adapt should the evolving health data trends require us to do so. As always, NOLA PS maintains the authority to close any school building and revert to distance learning at any point if it becomes necessary to do so in order to safeguard our students, our teachers, staff, and also their families. We continue working closely with the city to ensure we move forward in a measured and cautious manner. In the meantime, we will continue to ask our community to stay vigilant as we prepare to send our little ones back to the school buildings. We are once again asking our neighbors to maintain the same necessary levels of dedication and commitment, which we've seen over the last several weeks that have allowed us to get to where we are today. We have to continue to do our part to stop the spread of this virus in our community. I know that we can count on each and every one of you, and I know together we can definitely do this. At this time, again, I want to thank Mayor Cantrell for joining us here today. I'm going to welcome Mayor Cantrell to the podium shortly, but following Mayor Cantrell, we'll hear from Dr. Avegno, who will speak more about the recent health data and also how we can ensure it remains consistent so that our students can get back to in-person learning safely. And then following Dr. Avegno, we'll hear from our board president, Mr. Ethan Ashley. At this time, we will hear from our mayor, Mayor Cantrell. I always forget where I put my mouse. Thank you, Mayor Cantrell.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you again to the leadership of New Orleans Public Schools and that of the Orleans Parish School Board. Dr. Lewis, thank you again, and President Ashley, appreciate your leadership, and that of our health professionals and our administration overall. This day, to me, is an exciting moment in the city of New Orleans and really speaks to a win-win for our community. One that has placed and put children first. Children's ability to return to the classroom for on-site instruction has been our priority. And today, we're standing by the decision for our young people to return September 14th, again through September 25th. This didn't just happen. It happened because the public showed civic trust in leadership and holding fast to the guidelines that have been put in place, and also our focus on getting all of our kids back into the classroom. As Dr. Henderson Lewis said, it's one step at a time, but this is a major, major step and a milestone as we move through this pandemic that has reshaped the city of New Orleans in terms of how we interact. I cannot say enough that every day a child is outside of that classroom puts them a step further away from academic enrichment and achievement that we know that we want them to receive. So, although we're moving with pre-K through 4th grade, starting again on the 14th, the hope is to phase in our young people until we have 100% back in that classroom, and also continuing to give the parents the option of virtual learning once we give the green light for all of our kids to return. Again, this didn't happen just because. It's because of the people of our community have been paying attention and doing the right thing. Now, of course, we don't have 100% compliance. This will always be a challenge, and one that we will hold dear and play to our strengths in terms of enforcement. But the reality is, we're doing better as a community because the majority of our people have been doing the right thing. And what I want to say is, do not be discouraged in well-doing. It is necessary. So we have gotten here today. I'm excited about that, but I'm even more excited about our ability to bring more of our children back into the classroom until we get 100%. This will be the city of New Orleans' priority as we move through the pandemic, as we move through phases. The phase that we're in now is children attending public school, being on a path to getting instruction in the classroom. So this is a huge step. And over the past several weeks, I've had the real opportunity to visit schools, those in person as well as virtually. And it is remarkable what our educators are doing across the board, being creative and innovative, but doing everything possible to keep our children engaged during virtual instruction. And I'm telling you, the kids have been engaged. But at the end of the day, there's no substitution from on-site instruction. And we cannot in any way afford as a city to lose a generation of our children. So they will continue to be our top priority, returning to the classroom. I want to thank the leadership again, OPSB, New Orleans Public Schools, and all of our charter management organizations who have just gone above and beyond to ensure that the safety of our students are priority, that of our instructional leaders, staff, that everyone has what they need, and they will continue to be the priority as children return to the classroom. We have created a program for priority testing for our educators, which is necessary, and we will continue to lean in and lean forward as necessary to get 100% of our students in the classroom learning directly from their instructors. We have had the benefit even of seeing children who attend private school are back in the classroom, still dual, some virtual, some on site, and we have been able to measure the impact there, which makes me feel very comfortable and confident in us taking this next very important step so that our children attending public school now get the benefit of on-site instruction. So you have me. This is a win-win. We'll continue to work together. And I'm going to ask my expert, the one who has been unwavering on the ground with outreach to every healthcare professional agency throughout the United States of America and abroad. Because we understand that these decisions that we make, they have consequences. And based on the decisions that we've made in the city of New Orleans, the consequences have gotten us closer to a public health outcome, meaning quality health outcomes in our city, and we want to keep that going. So without further ado, Dr. Jennifer Avegno, please come forward.
Thank you very much, Mayor, Dr. Lewis, Mr. Ashley, and the rest of Knoll Public Schools. Over the last several months, we're right at our 6-month anniversary from our first case of COVID. The leadership here has truly taken this pandemic seriously and developed that comprehensive yet flexible safety plan for school reopening that we've talked about for so long. In July, we were fully supportive of leadership as they collectively made the decision not to reopen schools, or to begin them under a distance learning model because the data did not safely support it. And we were fully in agreement on that. Again, you've heard it said, students back in school is the #1 priority. It is the biggest benefit for public health and the economy, so it is truly overrated. Given where we are now, we still believe and we fully support the plan to reopen classrooms using that slow and phased approach starting next week. This phase, this slow and steady approach really comes from considerable thought and follows models that have been produced by national leaders in public health. We have to follow the data, even as the data changes rapidly. We have to use a very targeted approach to address the problem areas that may be causing outbreaks in certain parts. For 4 weeks, our average daily case counts were below that threshold set months ago, one of our many metrics for 50 cases per day. Now, in the last week, you've seen that number creep up a little bit. I'm happy to say it's below 50 again today. We have worked very closely to understand why that is, with the Louisiana Department of Health and others, to really dive into those numbers and determine the cause. So far, those cases that rise seems to be largely tied to the high volume of testing of asymptomatic college students returning to the city. Elevated case counts always give us pause, and that's why we stop and really take a close look at the data. But the fact that our other metrics have remained robust, our testing has remained incredibly high, and most importantly, our positivity rate has remained below 5% and actually really below 3% for weeks, makes us feel that we are confident that it is safe to proceed as we discussed 2 weeks ago. We will continue. I give you my promise and the promise of my team and everyone involved in this. We will continue to monitor cases as well as every one of our other metrics, both on our college campuses and in the broader picture, to make sure we understand if these cases translate into larger community spread. Right now, we do not see any indication that they are doing so in a significant amount. We will always continue to acknowledge the uncertainty of this pandemic. And to do so, I think, would be dishonest. But also the resilience of our New Orleanians, as the mayor alluded to understand if data guides our actions to change course, we will come and explain it to you. Again, our children's success and progress to date depends on our actions individually and as a city. And as the mayor has said, this is the only restriction that warrants easing right now, since the benefits are so tremendous and far outweigh anything else we could do. But our behavior can't change. We have to continue to do the things that got us here so we can keep us here. We have to remain vigilant in masking, physically distancing, and avoiding gatherings, as well as following the guidelines as we've set them out. Again, we will continue to watch this extremely closely and support our staff and children in however they need when they return. And I just want to add my thanks as the parent of 4 children and professionally to New Orleanians for getting us to this point and helping our community make such tremendous improvements. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis, Mayor Cantrell, Dr. Springate, Dr. Begum, Tiffany.
I just want to say good afternoon, and I just want to start by thanking the entire community. To get to this point is not an easy feat, but with the partnership of the city of New Orleans, from our mayor, we are very lucky, and I want to make sure I say this publicly, we are very lucky to have a mayor who is standing in this moment to ensure that our young people are definitely the priority of our city. And as the board president for the school board, I am lucky to have a partner like this standing with myself and Dr. Lewis as we try to make sure that our students, again, are able to get back into the classroom. As it's been said time and time during this press conference, that is the priority, and we know the impacts that it has on young people's ability to continue to achieve and learn. Now, as we prepare to return our youngest students into in-person learning, between the dates of September 14th and 25th, I've seen the hard work and preparation that our school leaders and our educators have put into place just to make this year successful. And you've got to acknowledge that in them and say thank you all for your work of remaining flexible but doing the necessary work to be successful during this virtual experience. Now, to our incredible parents, many of whom are actually standing up here, myself included, I just want to say thank you for the work that you all have been doing to partner with the school district during this virtual learning experience. And while we are offering in-person learning for our youngest learners, it doesn't mean, I think the mayor said this, it doesn't mean that if you opt to stay virtual, there's still an option for you that we are making sure will remain the case. Now, for the school board, we said this from the beginning. The health and safety of our teachers, our students, and all of our learners within our community is the top priority. That has not changed. And I think we've heard today from our leadership around our health leadership to say that we are remaining vigilant and we will continue to use our roadmap plan to ensure that we stay flexible to the health trend data to be able to influence and guide us on what is the right thing to do in this moment for our young people and our families. Now, in the coming weeks, we'll continue working closely with our school leaders and our teachers as they prepare to welcome students back into their classrooms. And I will say, as someone who is a parent of a 9-year-old, I know he's looking forward to seeing his classmates and his teachers. And so, I just, again, cannot thank you all enough, because the emotional and well-being of our young people in this moment is something that we have to acknowledge, and I know we are, as leaders, keeping that at the forefront, not just the academics, but the emotional learning as well that takes place in these school buildings. Now, it's still a difficult time, and we know that we gotta remain flexible, but I will tell you all, we have to continue to be vigilant, continue to mask up, continue to do what we have done to get us here today. It is a matter of will and priority, and I think our city has both the will and the priority of putting our students first, and we can't thank you enough here at NOLA Public Schools and the Orleans Parish School Board. And look, I think we've heard this, but mask up, wash your hands, social distance, and stay home if you're feeling unwell. Together, we can ensure that our students will get back to in-person learning and stay in in-person learning. And so thank you. And with that, I will turn it back over to Superintendent Lewis.
Just heard Mayor Cantrell telling Board President Ashley the key word is to stay. And that is so important this afternoon that we remind everyone that the announcement that we've made this afternoon is a major announcement as we think of the 2020-2021 school year. And even as we now transition for our youngest learners to in-person learning beginning September 14th through 25th, we want them to stay in school. And so it's going to take a lot on all of our parts to make sure that not only our young people who are returning to school in the coming beginning next week, that our middle school and high school students can follow suit shortly thereafter. And so at this time, I'll turn it over to Dominique that will take us through the question and answer period. Dominique?
Yes, Dr. Lewis. Guys, you know the drill. Come up to the mic when you have questions. 2 questions each outlet. Stella, do you want to start? You two?
Sure. So,
There you go. So the folks at home.
just to be clear, we all heard the governor's announcement earlier today. I'm hoping Mayor Cantrell, you can speak a little bit about what you're thinking in terms of what phase we're in now, if you're thinking about moving into a different phase anytime soon. And thank you.
Oh, no problem. And while I did hear that the governor made an announcement this morning that he will be moving the state into phase 3, at the same time, given no information about what phase 3 will look like for the state of Louisiana. So it's very difficult for me to respond when I don't have the information. And a parish, one of the largest in the state, not having information. Again, the city of New Orleans is in phase 2. We will remain in place. We will continue to let the data drive us. But where the data has driven us today is to ensure that our kids are returning to school starting next week. The priority again is for us to have a full complement of our students in the classroom, and not only getting them there, but keeping them there throughout the school season. That is the goal, and that is the priority.
Thank you. Previously, you had said that you would be keeping a close eye on what happens when schools do reopen. Can you just reiterate for us today, is that still the case? Will you still be looking at that as a major factor in deciding when to move into the next
Oh,
phase?
absolutely. With one of the primary reason for us staying in phase 2 not moving with further easement of any restrictions, is to get our kids back into the classroom, have the time that will allow us to look at the data, look at the trends, and therefore determine the impact, whether positive or negative. That will then allow us to continue to move our kids back in until we get to that 100% mark. That is the priority for this city and for the community, for all of our children to have access to on-site instruction, because it is imperative to their growth and also to our economy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This may be a question for the mayor as well. LHSAA announced yesterday that high school football practice can go to full contact starting today. What does that mean for football teams here in Orleans Parish? Will they be able to do the same?
Okay, so as it relates, Doc, you can definitely chime in on this one because we've been round and round, but the reality is this, the city of New Orleans is in phase 2. And so the guidelines that are in place, as it speaks to any contact sports, bottom line, we're in phase 2. As I stated on yesterday, we will continue to look at the data. Wait to see what the guidance what comes out of LHSAA. Everybody's making decisions, but not giving real clarity on what the decisions mean or the impact that those decisions will have. Well, we have to look at all the data, and we will do that. And I have given the approval to my CEO of NORD, I'm sure he acts like one, I'm sure. Larry Barabino Jr., who is our CEO of NORD, will be leading a task force specifically on high school football and working with all of our partners, both, of course, public, private, rec, all throughout, and over the next several weeks. And that will aid me and Dr. Begno of making any further decisions relative to football and contact sports. But Dr. Begno, you want to chime in?
So I think the real question that we're asking is, how does LHSAA propose to keep athletes, coaches, staff, and their families safe? And I think, if we are truly focused on the health and safety of our children and their families and staff, that's got to be the starting point. We have reached out to LHSAA to ask them for their updated guidance on what they would consider in a football season and a football game in terms of practice. They are not ready yet. They don't have it yet. They have assured us that as soon as they do, we need to review that. We have already started having conversations with folks on the national level, trying to get what best practice recommendations there are. Because again, our only priority is the health and safety of children and getting them back into schools. And if there is a way that we can figure that out and athletics can be done safely, but that's really where this starts. So we look forward to receiving the guidance from the LHSAA. I look forward to having a conversation and working through all of this with Larry, with all of the representatives from the schools. But again, it's really hard to make a decision if you don't know what health and safety guidelines the decision's made.
So, and a follow-up, any idea how long we will remain in phase 2? Because obviously there's a lot of questions about, not just high school football, but also professional football when we have these Saints games. And I know that Saints ticket holders are hoping to get back to the Dome for the 9/27 game. What are the thoughts on that?
Again, we haven't gotten any information from the state on what phase 3 looks like. So for now, we are in the phase that we are in until we receive more information.
And again, I don't know how to say it. Until kids get back in school, that's the priority around here. So kids are the priority in school instruction, and that will, as we move forward, we'll measure how well we do and continue to rotate, public school students back into that classroom until we are at 100%. And of course, with parents continuing to have the option of virtual versus on-site instruction. That is the priority.
I apologize, it's kind of a similar question, but we get a lot of questions. I'm going to make it hopefully simple as possible. Yes or no, can high schools play football starting today in October in the city of New Orleans? Yes or no?
I just answered that question.
But it wasn't, with all due respect, I think there's a lot of confusion.
With all due respect, phase two, what confusion? We've been in phase two, we will remain in phase two, the guidelines are very clear.
So yes or no, can high schools play football?
Phase two.
I'm sorry.
What does it say?
I'm just asking yes or no, can high schools play football?
You're asking me a question, however, you thoroughly understand what phase two means. You also understand the guidelines that are in place, and that's where the city of New Orleans will remain as it relates to football.
Thanks, Joe.
So I had one more question. Sorry. Sorry.
Just to be clear,
Sure.
there are.
Can you answer that, Ms. Dr. Valley? Yes or no, can high schools play football?
That's not the question.
It's yes or no. I think people watching this want to know yes or no, can we play
As of
football?
now, in the phase two guidance, in the city of New Orleans, contact sports are not allowed.
Okay.
There are guidance that allow for non-contact drills, which the schools have all been doing. So what a football team could do 2 days ago, they can continue to do today. As of now, until we see how LHSAA has any plan to keep children and coaches safe, that will not change until we can figure that out.
How is Tulane practicing football and how are the Saints playing on Sunday in the city of New
So
Orleans?
the Saints have applied to the state for a workplace exception, that this is their place of work. The LHSAA does not govern Tulane football.
Okay.
Thanks, Trevor.
But what about the city? Isn't Tulane in the city of New Orleans? So how are they practicing contact sports on a campus in the city of New
I
Orleans?
haven't had a conversation with Tulane about what they're practicing or not practicing.
But they've been practicing for a month.
Travis,
Sorry.
let's go.
Sorry.
Come
Okay.
on, thank you. Two apiece.
Dr. Henderson, how many, it's pre-K through fourth grade, about how many students are we talking about will be back?
Yes, so, I don't have that exact number, we can provide that.
Okay.
But again, our school system, of course, we have 45,000 students, and so a fraction of our students, again, will be starting in-person learning, and what we hope to do over a period of time is be able to move forward with seeing all 45,000 students back in school.
And it's a full day for the
Yeah,
pre-K through fourth?
again, great question. When we go back to in-person learning, it is a full day of school, right? And even as we're doing virtual learning, whether we have both synchronous and asynchronous activity for our students, it's still a full day of school.
Okay.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank
Go ahead, Dan.
For Mayor Cantrell, question I've seen a couple of times online, people have asked about Bourbon Street. You've seen crowds gathering up there. Has there been any thought to stopping the pedestrian mall at night? People have suggested online that cars going by might stop people gathering.
Sure, so my public safety team is actually looking through the different methods for further enforcement. We are looking at issuing citations as well, being more proactive, being in those areas prior to events kind of gathering or people congregating. We understand that Bourbon Street is not only the focus here, but we've seen pockets throughout the city of New Orleans where these type of large gatherings are happening. So the public safety team is restructuring our protocols and really wanting to, be more aggressive on that front end. And what I mean by that is issuing citations and making it very clear to the public that we will have to go this route. We have tried not to do that, but when you see the levels of non-compliance, it is forcing us to take just another level of action. We're looking at right now, I have asked to whether individuals who will be issued a citation, could that put them in jeopardy of receiving their unemployment insurance benefits? It's my opinion, you can't receive public resources, but at the same time violate public mandates to keep people safe in the city of New Orleans. And so these are some of the things that we're looking at. We know that we're limited in our capacity to enforce everything simultaneously. And it is pretty unheard of when you want to overlook public responsibility. And that's something I can't teach people. I can only demonstrate that. And not only me, but other citizens in this city that continue to do the right thing. And I'm really pleading to them to do not be discouraged in well-doing, because it's making all of the difference. And so what will come, I'm hoping, is just another level of enforcement. But what I also hope is that we have another level of civic responsibility, particularly those who consistently violate the mandates. But it's not helping any of us, but I really do expect more aggressive enforcement. But I'm actually waiting to hear back what the city can do as it relates to individuals being issued a citation, yet being able to receive a public resource. Thank you.
I have one last question.
Yes.
What would you say to businesses, particularly bars in the French Quarter, who say that they can't hang on any longer, that
it's tough.
they are just
I understand.
at
It's
the
tough.
end of the rope?
It's tough. We're looking for a local solution to a federal problem here. Okay, this is the reality. The federal government has not been a real partner in this from the very beginning, and we heard information just as of yesterday. So looking again to the local municipality to solve a federal problem and to make our people whole, that's what I'm going to continue to focus on. Making all of our people whole, because they should be whole. They should be. So from the bars to the bartenders to all of the business owners in the city of New Orleans, no, it's not fair to them. No, it's not. We're looking at the local government to solve all of that. It's a false expectation. So we have to, one, continue to push and advocate at the levels that will get us the resources that we desperately need here in the city of New Orleans. And from my standpoint, that is resources that were distributed to the state government, as well as resources that we're pushing for additional from the federal government. So it's a work in progress, but looking for a local solution to a federal problem, I think we have to turn the map around on that.
Thank you, Mayor. This concludes the questions, guys. Dr. Lewis, you want to close it out? Last word about schools.
Yes, thank you, Dominique. I'd like to take this opportunity to once again thank Mayor Cantrell for not only being here today, but for his continued leadership as we look at the development of the roadmap and the support that we have from the very get-go to get us through this process. And this is what's going to take us through the entire school year to make sure that our kids are able to get back to in-person learning in the classroom with their teachers, so we can give those wraparound services that we always give our students each and every year, and we know that they truly need it at this time. Also, Dr. Abegno for always coming and providing us the recent health data trends and letting us know why things are the way that they are and how we need to respond to that as a community. And our medical advisor, Dr. Springay, of course, our board president, and our entire board members of the entire school board for their leadership in a very, very difficult time. And Tiffany Belford and our entire team, as we continue to work with our school leaders day in and day out to really make things happen for our students and for our families. So again, we thank everyone for joining us this afternoon. This concludes our press conference. Each and every one of you, have a wonderful afternoon.